Hello and welcome to Warblog. Today I'm having a little blast on this Armenian, Azerbaijani, narbogle, whatever campaign. Just before I start moving the counters around, I thought that's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to bring leaders more into things. Clearly I haven't done that in this instance. All this stuff sort of takes time, but essentially, in order to create a narrative for the games, make them a little more, not so much interesting, but just give them a sort of another dimension, not just from the leadership capacity, but sort of structure. Now, for example, these units are from the sort of 23rd, but that's completely nonsense. So I just pulled them out of the box. They were from the other game. So, I mean, you could sort of say, well, this is the 23rd, but they're all got the 23rd on this, so I just pulled them out of the box. But, you know, by designation. Now, the thing that we don't know in this game, this scenario, is who was leading. I mean, according to Wikipedia, there are no leaders noted. I mean, it's got casualty levels. It's got the belligerents units involved. But that's sort of secondary. I mean, it doesn't really sort of say what units. I mean, there's some grad launchers. I mean, I haven't really gone to ground with what was there. I've just put in some random units. I think there's probably too much on either side. But anyway, what I'm just trying to say is, what I'm trying to do is sort of give it another narrative. I started watching more and more of these war games online, and I think I can't remember which game it is, but it's quite advanced. Lots of clever things. The whole of the Eastern Front of the Second World War. Zoom right out and get these sort of super scaled maps. Just say Germany and Austria or Czechoslovakia and Russia, and all very impressive. But when it came down to the combat, it was sort of real time. The guy was just clicking here and there, just click, click, click. Oh no, what's happening? More tanks! And I get away, tanks. And it didn't make for very interesting listening. I'm not saying this makes for interesting listening, but I think there's sort of, as far as a game is concerned, because it is a game. I'm not saying it's sort of that type of game, but I think you sort of need to, I don't know, I think put the game back into game as opposed to sort of lots of automation, things happening quite quickly. And I think what's happening is you're saying, right, move there, and it would actually start moving there, and you can see a little map of the world with the sun and the time, and you'd zoom straight out and zoom into the Pacific and all sorts of things. So anyway, this is it's very recent, this event, probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Not a lot is known about it, but it's not a big one. It's a sort of remnants of a bigger one, but essentially this side, and this is why I want to put leaders and things like this in, and sadly I'm not very good at remembering anything. This side are trying to attack this side, I mean, what I'm trying to do, and I think I need a little bit more time personally to get the handle on this, but this is the objective, is to actually know what this side is. I mean, I know what it is. These are the Azerbaijanis. But essentially the Azerbaijanis are sort of this area here, and this is my ignorance, is, well, it's North, let me just make an effort to get it right. It's Nagorno-Karabakh. I mean, I know that. I've been looking at this for a while. The big one before, the two more scenarios from the Borno. See, I can't remember it. Nagorno-Karabakh. So Nagorno-Karabakh is actually part of Azerbaijan. It's a breakaway state that's not officially recognized by Western nations. So the significance of that, it is actually part of Azerbaijan, and so they do, in theory, have a legal right to enter it. And this is what they're doing in this scenario. They are basically taking it over again. I mean, that's what the Wikipedia thing says. The separatist Nagorno-Karabakh Republic has a de facto independence from Azerbaijan, but is a territory, but the territory is internationally recognised as part of Azerbaijan. So basically, obviously you can just read this yourself, but each side blamed each other for the outbreak of clashes, and these are the 5 places which you can see are highlighted as objectives here, here, here. If my brain was working properly, I'd know what these towns are and say them properly. Agadara, Tartar, Agdam, Kojavend, and Fuzuli. So they're blaming each other, but these are launched large-scale attacks. I mean, you can just see the number of tanks: 10, 14 tanks destroyed. 2 helicopters, 26 tanks destroyed. Claims. I mean, the tanks being destroyed in their own right, it must have been, fairly significant. I've managed to go through 6 minutes without making a move. But so essentially, the Azerbaijanis are sort of moving into their own territory, but the Nagorno-Karabakh people don't like it. But what happens in all these other instances is, as the Nagorno-Karabakh units, is the Armenian units then start to come in. And so now they come in turn 2, which is basically the next turn. So I'm not sure how competitive it is, because I haven't even moved any counters yet. I haven't played this, so I mean, I think the first thing to do is quite clearly to maybe move on to this place. So I wonder what the movement is like through agriculture. Okay. See, when I get the leaders sorted out properly, and I mean, in a game like this we don't know, but I would say maybe I would be calling things like this is Northern Command, Central Command, Southern Command, just splitting it up into sort of notional command areas and giving them a leader. So you can then actually sort of say, well, I'm going to obviously move my Northern Command to take out Agdara, which is also Markakert. So, Northern Command will come in here and to take that area out. Still got lots of movement, so mechanized infantry. Probably going to walk straight through this little place. I mean, I haven't really thought of this. Maybe I should dig them in. Now, I haven't done it. I'm going to put in a little. I'm going to change this slightly. It's not actually going to change, but what's going to go on in here is I'm going to put in some indicators. So maybe here we'll have the attacker, and here we'll have the defender, and it will actually say the odds. So at the moment the attacker is 0 because we've not selected any of these, but the defender would be 3 plus 2 makes 5. They're not depressed or anything, they've not got a leader, so it's 5, but they're in built up, which is, I think, 3 times. Why don't I have a quick look? I can never remember these things. What's this? Rules. And here's my half-arse. I started to change the rules. I still haven't really done it. I'm trying to make them so that they're actually structured. But defense, you can see what's been putting loads of new things in there. I haven't done anything for a few days. I feel a little bit neglectful, but to be quite honest, I've been going in it quite heavily, really, generally. Okay, defense is 3, so it's 3 times. Back to my games. So what I was trying to say there is when you go in here, it'll actually have the defender score here, which will be 5, so it'll be 15. So there might be a nice big 15, and when you click on here, it will suddenly say 4, and maybe over here somewhere that will 4 to 15 is like, you know, 1 to 4. But then as you add more and more units, you actually start to get, you can then actually, so instead of just thinking about it, you can actually then sort of say, oh, okay, well, I can do this. You can pick and choose. And I think this is the most important part of the screen in comparison to, say, what I saw in this other game. And it's the same with quite a few other ones. I can't even remember their names, but you don't seem to, there doesn't seem to be sort of that much in the way of figuring out the odds. You just move them and then they start to attack each other even from range. These little lines come out and they start all these sound effects, and it's sort of like, that's not a game, that's not a war game, that's some kind of entertainment product. So, you know, I think the sort of the subtle art of counting odds and things like that is quite important. And but I'm going to sort of start to give a few aids here so that you can actually start, you know, selecting the units to get the right odds. I think it's fair enough because you can calculate them and they should balance out. I think the players should know what they're building up towards. So anyway, I'm just, and what I don't want to do is just do attack after attack like a robot. Just try to breathe some life into the scenarios and the classic attacks. I mean, the one thing the game did get right is actually whenever there was an engagement like this, it gave it a title. And it said you won or lost the battle of whatever. In this case, obviously, the battle of that town, which name I can never remember even if it's really in front of me. So here, after we've committed ourselves, obviously, we get to know the odds. Huh, look at that, 5 to 1. I didn't think it was going to be that high. So they had 10. I wonder why they had. Oh, maybe it's only light urban, which is doubled. So anyway, but that would have had 10 there, and then I would have changed my odds. So, you know, I had 3 over, so I could have not put in. Right, there was nothing that I could have put in. I would have needed that. That would have been. Well, I could have actually not put in one of these mechanized units because that would have taken me down to 50.6, which would have still given me 5 to 1. So that little game aid, I think, will be helpful. But anyway, so. I mean, I'm not going to be doing anything like this, it's too complicated, but in the Battle of Agdara, the first Battle of Agdara, basically, I came across the border, I caught them by surprise, significantly outnumbered, and forced the Nagorno-Karabakh units to retreat. And saw how I think it should be played, taking a bit of attention to sort of, you know, the scenarios, and that in its own right is, you know, quite a big event. It's just a case of, you know, I'm going to put these troops here and get rid of these, and you start looking at these units and sort of, well, you know, they're Depression 2, so they can actually recover. Depression 2, so they both got Depression 2 from that retreat. So, I mean, unless they get attacked there next turn, they can survive that. Now, what these people do is sort of, I don't know really, I'm sort of in the last minute here, so I'm not even going to do any more attacks, to be quite honest. But I'm sort of, it's not a modelling tool, but I like to think of it to some extent as modelling. So think, well, you know, the Azerbaijanis probably don't want to go around murdering lots of people. They've taken this town, they've won that battle. These units have been retreated, and it's in their interest to regroup and recover. They're not going to counterattack, so I don't see a need to actually attack again just because I can mathematically with the counters. It's not the Second World War where I have to destroy them. To run these people into the ground would probably be attract the sort of media attention that they don't want. So they've taken that first objective. I'm not going to take it anymore. It's amazing at one little move, but yeah, I just want to get another video up really. See you later.